Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is so good to be back to another Saturday morning edition of Think and Grow Rich Live with the infamous book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. My name is Dr. Peter A. James, folks, and welcome to Saturday morning, your Saturday morning, where you make a choice to be here in order to think differently, to shift your mindset, to look at the world through a different lens and apply it as necessary to your life, to your career, to your business. I'm so excited to be back here this morning as we dive on into chapter 4 of this infamous text, Specialized Knowledge. And I'm hoping as we dive in right now that you're able to glean at least one gem on this hour on a Saturday morning and apply it. I'm excited today, folks. Why? We have a very special guest who is no stranger to the show. She's here to dive on in and chat with us a little bit. But before we get to our special guest, let me bring in my co-host for today, Galen Bingham, the leadership strategist. Good morning, sir. How are you doing today?
Fantastic. Welcome back. Welcome back from all
Thank
of your
you.
world travels.
Yes, not
Uh,
quite as extensive as Anne McNeil. Nevertheless, I'm
I
very
think
happy with mine.
I think she's probably somewhere over Chile right now. Turkey. Turkey. I think she was headed to Turkey.
Listen, it could be the Alps, it could be the Pyrenees, it could be the Amazon jungle, something.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited about this conversation. Number one, really, really important topic. We're going to be talking about specialized knowledge,
Mhm.
and I know that you've done some extensive training and education. You've collected a whole bunch of general knowledge, and then you've also collected some specialized knowledge. We're going to talk about the difference between the two and why general knowledge is really important. Just folks won't pay you for general knowledge.
Mm.
So
Mm.
you got to
Tell me about it.
accumulate.
Tell me about
You've got to accumulate
it.
specialized knowledge in order to do something of incredible value that people are willing to compensate you for. Plus, our guest, Karla Hill, not only has she been on the show before, but when she's not on this side of the camera, she's on the other side of the camera, checking out what we're doing, getting her fuel and refill of this incredible text. So we're going to talk to her about that as well. Why is it important for her to accumulate specialized knowledge about this book, right? So why is that even important? So I can't wait to get into this conversation.
Excited, excited. We're gonna dive on in. Got a lot of stuff to talk about today. We got some commercials. We're gonna show them some annual meetings and everything. But before we do that, read the bio of our distinguished guest a little bit. Karla Hill, she is a seasoned HR executive, career coach, and a business owner committed to equipping individuals to accomplish their economic empowerment goals. She is the founder of GPS Career and Business Strategies, the firm that helps business owners and individuals transform their organizations and careers via human resources tools and strategies. She is also a graduate of Cooney City University of New York's Baruch College, the infamous Baruch College, for her bachelor's degree, and obtained a master's degree from Chestnut Hill College in Philadelphia. She's an HR professional, folks. She's holds senior certifications in Society of Human Resource Management and the Human Resource Certification Institute, and is certified to administer the Myers-Briggs Personality and Career Direct Assessment tools. Galen, talk about specialized knowledge. She has been employed with the City of Philadelphia for the past 34 years. She currently serves as the Deputy Director for Human Resources for the City of Philadelphia's Department of Planning and Development. And lastly, she partners with her husband providing customized real estate services as licensed realtors, investors, mortgage professionals, and educators to help others build their wealth goal via GPS Real Estate Solutions. Lots of stuff there, folks. Without further ado, good morning there, Mrs. Karla Hill. How are you doing today?
Good morning. Just one revision to the bio that I should have
Yes.
checked. So I recently retired about 4 months ago after 35 years in government. So that HR executive experience now gets to be invested in my clients.
Very, very cool. Congratulations on your retirement and such a phenomenal career, especially what I just even read a little bit about there for sure. Um, Karla Hill, here's a first question for you before we dive into other stuff. Think and Grow Rich. When did you first come into contact with this infamous book?
That's a great question. I was reflecting on that since I do watch the show, the podcast,
Hmm.
probably about 15 years ago, as part of a business program I was part of, and it was actually the assignment to read the book to really get us ready in terms of business. And I was also an employee at that time. And what I realized in terms of coaching people, there's some deprogramming that has to take place as we transition from employee to entrepreneur. So 15 years ago, that was the initial seeds. I went through the
Hmm.
motions, that was the exposure, but it's different than living it, right?
Yeah.
So, but that was my first exposure to it, knowing it was written in the 1930s, how
Hmm.
important it was in terms of the text. But that was the first time I was really exposed to it. And I went probably through it at least twice, writing on each of because that was the homework in the assignment. But in terms of owning it, that's been evolving. But that's the first time I was exposed to it.
You are not alone by any stretch of the imagination. Of course, after a while, as our infamous leader says, after you read it a few times, the book begins to read you. Galen, let's get ready to jump on in to our first commercial break, which of course kind of gives us a little bit of an overview of these 13 principles. Do you mind teeing that up for us, sir?
Absolutely. We talk about these principles individually, and they are really, really important individually, and there's a lot to them. And that's how we're able to have this conversation on a weekly basis and have a different conversation, it seems. There's real magic when you see them all put together, the connection, the connective tissue that connects them. So as you listen to this video, as you watch this video, I'm going to encourage you to think about, how does this connect in order to allow you to accomplish those goals that you say that you have for yourself, allow you to accomplish them on purpose. So let's go ahead and get into this video.
Number one is desire. Napoleon Hill said that everything starts with a burning desire, a compelling reason for doing what it is we do. Step two is faith, having belief in our ability to attain that which we desire. Step three is what we call autosuggestion. Autosuggestion simply means being very intentional about the things that we are pouring into our thoughts, into our brains, and into our consciousness. Our brains, our minds will receive everything automatically, but we have to work extra hard to make sure that the positive things are what we are feeding ourselves, because those positive thoughts are going to turn into positive actions. Step number 4 is specialized knowledge. No one person knows everything, even about whatever their particular area of expertise might be. And the value of the mastermind principle is using the specialized knowledge of other people. Step number 5 is imagination, the workshop of the mind. Everything starts with our imagination and our thoughts, the burning desire to transform those thoughts into our reality. In order to do that, we have to take a look at step 6, which is organized planning. That is how we crystallize our desire into action, organizing ourselves. Having the thought and not acting on the thought isn't going to get us anywhere. We have the thought, we go through the organized planning to transform that thought into action. Step number 7 is decision. What Napoleon Hill said is the mastery of procrastination. Napoleon Hill said that the antidote to procrastination is simply to make a decision and then move on that decision. Step 8 is persistence. We have to have a sustained effort which is induced by our faith in order to achieve our goals. One of Napoleon Hill's books I love, even the title, 3 Feet from Gold. Those people who became rich during the gold rush in the wild, wild west days didn't do that because they were necessarily smarter or had better information than anyone else. It's because they stayed just a little bit longer. Sometimes people left when they were just literally 3 feet from gold. So hanging in there, being persistent, is step number 8. Step number 9, the power of the mastermind, the driving force. None of us can accomplish anything on our own. Everybody, I don't care who you are, from the most prominent person to the person who might be considered the lowest on the totem pole, everybody has someone who helped them get to where they are. And the power of the mastermind is being able to use those influences around us, use the thoughts, use the knowledge, use the exploration of other people to help us in achieving our goal. Step number 10, the mystery of sex transmutation. This title can be a little confusing, but essentially what the mystery of sex transmutation means is that we oftentimes in our society think of sex as being purely physical. It is absolutely physical, but what Napoleon Hill teaches us is that sex also has an emotional element, and that sex is the strongest of our desires. That if we can take our sexual energy, transform that into positive, creative influences, it can propel us to new heights. And so we spend quite a bit of time talking about the mystery of step 10, which is sex transmutation. Step number 11 is the subconscious mind, which Napoleon Hill tells us is the connecting leap between our human mind and the infinite intelligence, the source of all thought, the source of all creativity. Conscious mind, we spent some time talking about how we use that through the influence of autosuggestion and what we're feeding into our mind. Step number 12, which is the brain, the broadcasting and receiving station of thought. Final step number 13, the sixth sense, the door to the temple of wisdom. This is the final step through which infinite intelligence may and will communicate voluntarily without any effort from or demands by the individual. The principle is the apex of the philosophy. It can be assimilated, understood, and applied only by first mastering the other 12 principles.
So good stuff, folks. Those are the 13 chapters, the 13 principles. If you've never read or dove into this text, today's your day. Dive on into Think and Grow Rich and begin to do so, not even just from a financial perspective, but definitely even from a career, or as we're talking about, an education perspective as well. Those of you who are not familiar with this general versus specialized knowledge conversation, please let me give you a little bit of synopsis as read from Napoleon Hill's book. An educated person is not necessarily one who has an abundance of general or specialized knowledge. To be truly educated is to have so developed the faculties of mind that one may acquire anything one wishes or its equivalent without violating the rights of others. Henry Ford comes well within the meaning of this definition. So, Karla, I want to bring you back on into this conversation. You have a lot of education, my friend, and I would love to hear how you may have utilized it or not as you can reflect on your own educational background.
It's important to have that general knowledge, as Napoleon Hill talks about, just so you can have context and know who to listen to also. But it's the application of the specialized knowledge. I mean, one of the things I talk to my clients about is that there's 33,000 unique occupations, and that's from the Bureau of Labor Statistics.
Yeah.
And no matter where I speak, people name the same 5 to 15 occupations, right, in terms of what they want to do in terms of students. And working 35 years in government, there's probably not an occupation you could name that doesn't exist in government in terms of scientists, laborers, the full scheme. So having that broad picture, but things would not work if people weren't applying their specialized knowledge. Right? So while I understand how things work in general, it gives me the humility to know that all those things to really get the services that we need, to get the products that we need, it takes the application of that specialized term. So I have a deep appreciation for all occupations. A lot of people will make judgments that, oh, that person doesn't do anything in their job. That because I'm a nerd when it comes to career pathways and what it takes to be that that specialist, it is like 10,000 hours, like
Hmm.
Malcolm
Hmm.
Gladwell talks about in his
Yeah.
book.
Yeah.
So really just have the humility to have respect for people that are work people in whatever they're doing.
And, this is such an interesting time to have this conversation. So much career layoffs going on, reorganizations, rifts, a whole lot of stuff. We're not even going to go down that avenue because that could get very precarious. However, as people are looking at their careers a little bit differently right now, and you think about those degrees from school, the bachelor's, the master's degrees, and then you think about specific knowledge, certifications, things like that, as you reflect on your own career, but even those of what people may need right now, what comes to mind? What do you recommend for people who may be looking to re-enter the workforce, or excuse me, re-enter the job market in order to find something better? What's the approach, if you don't mind?
Thank you for that question, Peter. This is something that I am so passionate about. In assessment circles, we have this phrase that if you stay within, you'll never go without.
Hmm.
The issue is that people are always looking externally. Oh, AI is in, STEM is in. And instead of starting with yourself, the first step is really almost like in business. People have heard of the term a SWOT analysis. What are your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in terms of the acronym? And we are our own best asset. So, where I really start, and I recommend people start, are looking at your personality, your interests, your skills, and your values. Right? Well, education is a piece of that, personality is a piece of that, but I'm not trying to throw away my interests as well. One of the pieces of advice I give to people that are in more general support fields, whether you're an HR person, finance, IT, communications, how about targeting an industry that you have an interest in, right? If I'll date myself here, but the movie Moneyball, right? Moneyball was about the Oakland A's. And in terms of this statistician, a nerd that really loved numbers. So he took his gifts and his talents to that sports industry, right? So looking at, okay, I really like doing this, but where do you want to do it? Right? What are those types of interests? And what are those specialized skills I need? Because it is competitive. So, the other thing that I see when you have a real interest in what you're doing, that's that energy that will be transitioned to moving you to your genius zone, so to speak, and your values. Not everyone, we know that most people need to have work to have money for themselves and their families to build wealth, but it's like you can have agency of where you're going to do that and what other things that are meaningful for you in terms of work. Like one of the very basic tools I use in my toolbox of assessments is the drive system, where it was originally developed to monitor why consumer behaviors, why people buy and how they make the decision to do so. But quickly after 18 years in existence, it's evolved into almost, oh, people are motivated in different ways. So somebody that is really loves lifestyle, right? They may be more of your creative. So selecting a sector in terms of being creative. For me, I'm a relator, right? I would like to impact people. I like legacy. So it makes sense that I'm in that human resources in that career planning field because I need to make impact. And secondarily, I'm more of an executive where I like goals and metrics and success, right? So again, equipping people for that success. So if you look at the check and balance of what I do for my career, then that makes sense, right? So those are the things, but it all begins with looking at yourself first. What is your best thing you're going to bring to that game, to that marketplace that you're going to be compensated for? And it doesn't start externally, it starts internally.
Good stuff, Galen. I could sit in the space all day and I got more questions for Karla. What are your
Yeah.
questions?
Well, I want to go back to something that we were talking about before we went live,
Hmm. Hmm.
because Karla, you've done a lot. You've led a busy life. Even after retiring, I don't suspect that your life has gotten any less busy. Family person. You've got your own business. you're maintaining your own education, your own knowledge in certain areas, but yet you make time every Saturday morning to be part of this conversation after reading the book several times. Of all the things that you could be doing with your Saturday, including sleep, why is this a core element of your diet for Saturday mornings when, like I said, so many things you could be doing with your time? Why is this a core element?
I mean, there's at least three reasons. One, as we were playing the video again in terms of the principles, like, oh, auto suggestion. What am I intentionally pouring into myself to get the results that I want? And this is, I love the term that you use in terms of diet, that consistency, because it's, to me, it's not just about reading the book and consuming the knowledge. It's, I want to be a practitioner. I want to be a practitioner of Think and Grow Rich. So that means I have to hear it. For me, I don't know about anybody else. I know I have to hear it on several occasions and look for opportunities to practice it. And when you start looking back at that, you're like, oh, that just becomes part of my habit, part of my routine. And when I talk about strengths, weaknesses, developmental areas, so for me, I know my strengths, but I know my weaknesses as well. And part of the weaknesses that I have to identify are, all right, what is like risk mitigation? Which ones am I going to just leave alone? Like, I don't need them anyway. But there's others that I do need. And what I realized over the past 4 years, I released over 100 pounds, 106 pounds. And how I did that, no flour, no sugar, but it was a system of no flour, no sugar, 3 meals a day, a community support. And I'm like, oh, that and my one of my number one personality traits in the own tools that I'm certified in is that I'm unstructured, right? That works well as a HR executive because I manage people well, I give people room, and I'm very good at delegating and identifying talent. But when you are looking at building your own asset, meaning myself, my business, I need systems, right? So this is part of my system for success, to build, to deprogram myself, to enter it with things that I'm really trying to do. And I used a sports analogy, growing up a big sports fan, more of a sports addict, that I had to release until the Eagles won again this last year. Like, oh, it came back triggering. But from that is, I use a lot of sports analogies, right? Just in terms of being in the field. I'm not being a spectator in my own life. I'm going to make sure that I'm bringing all that I have, and I need to put the reps in. So this is one of the ways that I'm pouring in and making sure I get the results that I want on the other side.
So important to put the reps in. It's not about seeing if you can do it one time, or seeing or finding out whether or not you can accomplish this goal once. You've got to make this a habit if you want to have this be part of your life. So incredibly, incredibly important. So, Dr. Peter, I'm going to turn this back to you. But first, I want to acknowledge the folks who are joining and riding with us on YouTube. We got Doretha Dennis, another commonplace for her. Shannon Charlton, Imelda Wallace is here. DTL 5110. I hope I got all those letters and numbers right. But thank you guys for joining us. Please be sure to hit that thumbs up icon underneath the video. That's what activates the algorithm to let folks know that there's more going on than what the government is doing today. So hit that thumbs up icon and share this with anyone that you believe needs to understand what this book is all about. So, Dr. Peter, back to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Carla, I want to stay on that conversation, whether it's about the reps or even what's going on in the environment today. As you mentioned those reps, sometimes people burn out quickly. They think that a great example, I'm circulating my resume. I applied for multiple jobs. I'm not getting any hits. They stop, right? They don't continue. I guess my question to you is, and I heard about I'm very familiar with the 10,000 hours philosophy from Malcolm Gladwell, but what does it take to be persistent, I guess, with your specialized knowledge? And as you reflect on your HR career and analyzing others' careers, what has been the difference between success and not so successful?
So I think resilience
Mm,
is, I mean, it's something, words are powerful, but it's how do you live out those words? Resilience has a set of skills to achieve resilience in terms of implementing. And then one of my tools in the toolbox is it's every week I go to like a resilience training, right? Through power thinking and Stanley Green. And shout out to Stanley Green. He's been a guest on the podcast as well. And it's really listening to it rains on the just and the unjust specifically, right? How are we going to respond to that? Right. But there is that emotional, making sure you're avoiding some of the thinking traps. Right now, we have a lot of content coming our way through the news that can really send you down a rabbit hole. So protecting yourself around that, because I mean, you need to be aware, but to live in that. So that's one of the ways is just protecting yourself from the things that are going to lead you into a direction you don't want to go. But then what are you going to pour into that, right? What are the, and it's not just positive affirmations, it's
mm.
people that are really believing what you're doing. So it's who you surround yourself with, right? And we've heard of the phrase that you are, average of the five people, but you want to be intentional about who you are going to allow in that inner circle, so to speak, realizing that things are going to come your way and what are the strategies you're going to use to respond to that, and making sure you have that mastermind. Again, that's part of it. I mean, the principles that are laid out in this book are excellent principles, but are we living the principles? And again, I think part of the fault of too much information and knowledge is, what are you going to implement? What are you going to practice? You can't take everything. So it's like, what are prioritizing and saying, what are the skills that I need to actually be proficient or excellent at what I'm going to do? And I think in terms of career success, resilience is one of them. So it's really coming up with a plan of of how am I going to practice and build resilience? How am I going to practice and build that specialized knowledge in whatever you're going to focus on? Right. And that's why I say it really starts with what your desire is. In this book, it talks about, in this chapter, it talks about the ambition, because there's so many things that are draining it. So that those variables, the loosey goosey things we might talk about of, just having the desire, having the interest, all those are inputs into that's going to make the difference of you winning and not winning.
Yeah, what I love a little bit about what you said there, especially in this environment that we operate in. If someone is watching this show today, we are in April of 2025, and the government is doing so much stuff around us. The media takes hold of it and runs with it. And while we might know that we need to be persistent, resilient, sometimes it's easier said than done. Karla, you make a great example of, you know, being persistent with the getting up on Saturday mornings to watch this show, to read the book over and over again. But watching and reading is just one thing. Applying them, as you mentioned, is another thing on a regular basis. And that can be challenging when we feel like we are demoralized in some form or fashion because of what's going on around us. So you almost have to have those people, the support system, the structure, as you mentioned, in order to, when you do get off track, get back on. Galen's my support to be able to keep me on track overall. I think we need that also. So I say all that to say I love what you're saying and how you're applying it, but especially in this day and age and this period, it can be challenging for some. And if they don't have that support system, they may need to start looking for some. We'll talk about that in a little bit as well there, Galen, right?
Yeah, yeah. You know, I want to I want to tap into your experience because I have heard people, and I'm aware of people who just collect knowledge. They collect specialized knowledge. There's just one more certification. If I could just understand this one more assessment, read this one more book, attend this other class, or sit with this other guru, and they're not necessarily doing anything with it. They're just collecting knowledge. How do you guard against collecting knowledge as opposed to applying knowledge? How do you make sure that you're being diligent and judicious with the knowledge that you're collecting?
See, and I think all of us have the strength and the weaknesses, right? So, I mean, what you talked about is someone that might be seen as that detailed person, it might be more of a support person. Those people have kept me out of trouble over the years. Have you thought of this? Have you thought of? I'm like, no, let's just go do it. Right. So it's a delicate balance. It's what do they want? I mean, if they are looking to get results, like, okay, that is your Achilles heel. That and making sure that you are surrounding yourself with that accountability partner that says you're studying, but when are you going to basically, put the ball in the put the ball in the hoop, right? So, but then, like I said, a person that's always taking action without any type of knowledge. So it's all of us. It's that finesse. It's that daily action that we all have a tendency to go off sides on whatever our strengths are. So it's I one of the things is that I do have an appreciation for people's different gifts and talents, and I would be more like you. I'm more of that executive, let's take action, let's get it done. But over my years, what I've learned, like, oh, I didn't think of that. Just like, the bio, like I should have reread the bio, right? So those types of individuals have a place also, but I always look at desire. Like, what do you want? I'm like, I'm going to point out to you. And I ask people, do you just want to talk or do you want me to give you feedback? I mean, so my feedback is you are great at getting the knowledge and collecting this information, but are you looking for results? If you keep doing that, you're not going to get the results. And they could take it elite. Like we have agency, right? So just like me, where I was like, we don't need no system. We just need to pull it. I'm like, yes, you do. If I want results. So it really just depends where they are, Galen, and what their goals are. So that's what I've learned over the years, because I used to have that bias towards they're not doing anything. What are they doing? They're keeping us out of trouble. They're saying I need to make sure those I's are dotted and T's are crossed, right? So it's just that, and that's why it's so powerful to make sure you have that mastermind, right?
Mm.
Like somebody said, community creates immunity.
Mm, I
It's
love
like
it.
the protections. You don't even know what you're protecting yourself against. But when you have people that think differently than you and you're open to listening and not just thinking you're the best at everything, that's how everybody wins if you let it in. But if you just think these people don't know what they're doing, they're just this, you're just really cutting off a lot of your opportunities for extreme success.
I love it. And to be topical, that is the power of diversity, right? To have people around you who have different skills, and then do you have the ability to identify those skills and know when to bring them in? I can do a number of things, but I'm not necessarily the best at doing everything. Can I bring in the people who are the experts at doing each of these individual things rather than trying to step in and do something that might not be my gift or my talent? Dr. Peter, man, this is such a great conversation. This sounds like something that you and I would be talking about on a Monday evening. So, what other questions do you have for our guest?
Yes, so many different ways. I want to definitely acknowledge that, I'm a product of a West Indian family heritage, and I was brought up in a culture of education is the key to success. And so I heard that, I applied that. So I went and got, finished my high school, got a bachelor's later on, went back to school, got a master's degree, got a doctorate, right? why did I dive into all of those? Did I really, is it because I wanted to, or is it because of what I was raised on, just stuck in my head? And I really thought that the more the degrees, the more success as I define it, right? But what Napoleon Hill is saying even more of is that, yeah, the degrees are fine. And this is now what I share with a lot of clients is that, yeah, going back to traditional education is fine, but what is the return on investment?
Mm.
What is it going to provide for you? What are you going to do? And a lot of people go to school thinking that the education is going to be the automatic ticket to dot, 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 dot.
The Willy
When it,
Wonka golden ticket.
exactly. And that's what we're looking for a little bit of, Galen, I think, is that golden goose. And it's not, it's unfortunately those of you who watch, it is not the education. The degree is not the ticket. It's what you do after the degree, the masterminds, the specialized knowledge, the now what are you doing with it to apply it in specific areas? That's the ticket. Because we oftentimes just think that the degree itself is, and sometimes you don't realize that until you're deep in it. Right, Galen?
Yeah, yeah. I want to bring in a comment from YouTube. Good friend Sharice Taylor just joined in, and she says that she has been in that gather versus go season, and for her, she recognized that for her it was rooted in fear.
Mhm.
So fear can cause us to say, "I'm not quite ready. I'm not quite enough. I've got to go get this extra degree. I've got to go take this extra class. I've got to go sit with this guru," right? As opposed to, yeah, that's interesting, but let me go make something happen. So I want to pose this to both of you. I guess I'll start with you, Karla. What role does fear play in this, either this desire to collect way more specialized knowledge or way more general knowledge than you need, or this idea of I don't need any knowledge. Let me just get out there. What role does fear play in your mind?
I think it plays a huge role, right? And the thing is, we can convince ourselves of anything that it's rational. And that's the power of a mastermind also. When you isolate, the thing is that is creating the issue because you are just listening to yourself. But when you move outside yourself, you say, well, that doesn't seem very rational, right? But it's rational to you. So I think it does, it's a major obstacle to success, to achieving success. And to Peter's point before in terms of taking into account education, I think it's a mixture of everything. That's why I look at that holistic of your experiences. I am too a product of, you know, Caribbean heritage. My mother speaks Spanish and English with a Jamaican accent. I grew up in New York. She's from Costa Rica. So if you know any Black people from Costa Rica, 99% chance they're from Limon, Costa Rica, where my mother's from. So growing up in New York, yes, it was the same thing. You came here for a reason. You came here. In fact, my dad's from Ondahl, South Carolina. Mom's from Limon, Costa Rica. Where would two people meet from such different places, except New York City, where they both wanted a better life? So my mother, came from that background. Like you just keep getting the degrees. You just keep. And my father could not work for anybody. He ended up having his own business that I worked for. So I was exposed to both, right? Entrepreneurship as well as gathering the degrees, so to speak. And it's a combination, right, of having the two, but you always have to be assessing along the way of what field are you going to. In the book, in the chapter, it talks about you have to understand the purpose for why you're getting the specialized knowledge. What's going to be the end game here, right? So it's just like I'm not good, and because education, universities are in business too. And as a HR practitioner, I've seen people going to get certain degrees in very and they end up majoring in something that the workforce, that the organization is not really looking for. So you spend all this money for really no reason. So, but I think there are some occupations that require that education also, but that's why you have to know why. You have to understand, you have organized planning is one of there's a place for that research and being very intentional for where you're going also. And quite honestly, what I share with people, like I got my master's degree in 2003. I've been certified in terms of Society for Human Resources Management since 2000s also. But the difference is that with the master's degree, you don't have to go back and show that you remember everything. Once you have you have it. And in some fields, technology fields, it's something that we call like obsolete degrees. Like if you got your degree longer than 5 years ago in technology or even in automotive maintenance technology, it's obsolete. So it's really certifications. My certifications have been more valuable because when I got my degree in 2003, we weren't talking about hybrid workplaces and like it's a different time. But in terms of the certifications that I possess, you have to recertify with 60 hours of continuing education credits every 3 years. So you have to prove that you've stayed up on that. So I tell the human resource people that I mentor that, hey, if I had a choice of having somebody that got their master's degree 5 years ago and someone that had a bachelor's degree but was certified, I would probably select the person that was certified because I know they demonstrated a commitment towards their specialized field. And in order to possess that certification, they've had to continue it, right?
Yeah.
Continue education. So that's when we're managing our career, that's not something you can delegate, right? And that's the way maybe it used to be. And unfortunately, what we're seeing with the federal government, right? People think they want to get into park. Oh, I don't have to worry about it anymore. And that's one thing with the immigrant mindset. You realize that you have to keep going because every day you have to eat, right? But sometimes you get too comfortable and you're really declining as opposed to staying ahead. You have to work to really just stay ahead.
I want to highlight something that you just shared because my daughter's coming home from college in a few weeks. I'm really really excited about it. I haven't seen her for a while, but she's closing in on the end of her biochemistry degree at Spelman College. And part of the advice that I've shared with her is figure out what you enjoy doing because the actual job that you're going to be doing in the future likely does not exist yet. And so figure out what you enjoy doing, get certifications and training in the things that you enjoy, and then figure out how do you get paid for doing what you enjoy most of the time as opposed to chasing a particular job that exists today. Now, there will probably always be doctors. There will probably always be, some of those there will always be lawyers. So some of those jobs that exist today will probably always exist in some form, but the chances of this particular thing that you see on the register list right now probably won't look the same in the future. So find, and I heard you talk about getting locked into your desire. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about the importance of understanding your desire as you pursue specialized knowledge that will allow you to do what you want to do in the future.
And you're absolutely right. And it's an ongoing process. That's excellent advice that you gave to your daughter. And you should just see the way you light up when you just started mentioning her name. So that's
I'm
true love
guilty.
there.
I'm guilty.
But it's, one of the things that I do in terms of that assessment, and everybody has a role in as being an HR executive for years. When you're sitting around the table, you're not saying, oh, we need to make sure Galen and Peter and Karla are all employed. That's not the mission of any organization. It's to provide the most efficient services with or without you. And even in government, we have a responsibility to the residents, right? Nonprofits, you need more services, direct services to individuals. So that's their mission, right? So to make sure that you have income and revenue to support yourself and your families and to build wealth, that's your mission, You can't delegate that to an organization. That's not their job, your job. So in terms of just like when organizations are run, they're managing, right? They have plans. They have 5-year plans. They have 1 year. So what is our plan? And it has to shift each time. So it really is that SWOT analysis. It's, when I talk about personality, interests, skills, and values, in there is that desire that you're talking about because it's going to shift. And so it's almost like looking at your career plan on either a quarterly, an annual basis to say, where are we? Right? What am I doing right now? Is it a need for what I'm doing? But also assessing what are the skills that I bring to the table. So in terms of when I sit down with someone and they doing that assessment that might take a couple of hours to do, but then I get a 30-page report that I'm able to debrief and do a consultation with them on. To It's almost like a PET scan, right? Looking at really detailed, and your skills, your interests and your personality may not change that much. Your values may shift based on trauma, but and or drama, and your skills, you might, okay, I have to upskill, I have to change. Right now, AI, we talk about AI is going to exist in every occupational area. And what I tell people is, and I've learned this, is you're not going to lose your job to AI. You're going to lose your job to somebody that knows AI, right? So that means let's start working on that now. And if the value added that you're going to bring to whether it's your own business or your employer is that, oh, we can use AI for that, and that'll make it much quicker, and that'll give me free time to do this for you. It's the added value. It's not an entitlement. They are not making sure that you have a job. They're not sitting at the table to make sure that everybody's okay. That is your responsibility, and you have to decide what are you going to bring to the field to make sure that you are taking care of yourself and your family. So to your daughter's, in terms of that situation, if she can finish with a biochemistry degree, that tells me so much. And that's why I talk about the 33,000 occupations, because she could start, well, that's my interest, but the field is going to continuously change. She's going to have to be able to change with it, but she's going to have to continuously assess what is the opportunity now, not wait for somebody to come knocking on your door and saying, this is the opportunity. So that is a skill. We talked about resilience, but career navigation is something everyone, whether you're 50, whether you're 20, we see the 50-year-olds that are being outplaced in the federal government and in other places. That's a skill set that you have to be able to function with.
Fantastic. Dr. Peter, I'll go back to you, man. You got some daughters and grandkids.
Mm-hmm.
How's this hitting you? How's this
Oh,
conversation
oh
hitting
wow,
you?
just on in so many different ways. I also have a daughter who's finishing up her master's degree in next month as well. So, but one thing I want to add to this is some of us are good at school, some of us are not good at school. And what I see from a lot of people also is those individuals who are comfortable in a school setting, going back to school to get another degree is easy. When they maybe should be focusing outside of their comfort zone to dive on into a certification or dive into the job market, they go to where it's comfortable. Now, I also know some people who are not comfortable in the school setting and are staying away from it to their detriment as well. So I think also part of this, Carla, is, identifying who you are and how you might need to step outside of your comfort zone in order to get towards your destination, overcome your fear in order to get towards your destination as well, right? So,
That's exactly right. In terms of in that HR space, when we're developing, one of my roles as training director, we are developing your training plan based on the gaps, not what you do well. What you do well is fine, but people want to stay in that comfort zone. It makes them feel good. You're getting affirmation, you're getting comfort, like all that validation. But just like I said, in terms of my weaknesses are systems and detail, right? So that means I have to get up intentionally. That's part of my planning. I hang out with more people that think that way now. People would probably think I'm more of that detail person now because I had to transform. I'm always going to be able to speak to people. I'm always going to be able to have go. I'm very comfortable with that. But in terms of being able to systemize that, duplicate that, looking at the systems and the gaps, then that's my weakness, right? So I think we do have to identify and that risk mitigation. There's some things that I don't really need to do, but there's some things that are impeding my optimization, my success. And we have to watch out for that. So with your daughter, Galen, all right, if she might love being in, I don't know, but like love being in the lab, may not be extrovert. Okay, but how you going to get that next assignment is maybe a networking plan. Oh, I don't really like doing, and again, I'm just using her as an example. Well, that means we're going, if, okay, do you want what you want? That's why I just asked, like, do you want the results? If you want the results, I'm going to share with you, this is what you're going to have to do. You may not have to do it all the time, but you're going to have to create some space for that skill to be developed, right? So it is that combination, and that's what coaches, Peter and Alan are coaches. I am coach. It's showing all this other kind of stuff is fine, but you're not paying me to just show that everything's fine. You're
Yeah.
showing, I'm showing what the possible gaps are, and it's your choice if you want to step in and make sure that gap is resolved. It may not be important to what your end result is, but if you've identified it as being important, then you're going to have to develop a plan, an organized plan where you're consistent. And it's going to be harder. It's much harder to do things we don't like to do, that we're not designed to do.
I'll tell you one of the places that I go to, and I try to go every year, and I think I've only missed 1 year in the past five, is to the annual meeting. We have an annual meeting for your life where we literally you sit and you share your plan with people who are like-minded, who are invested in you being successful. They don't, I don't know that they necessarily care what you do, but are you putting an organized plan in place that will allow you to be as successful as you say you want to be? And I would just encourage everyone to make this part of your plan, make this part of your annual plan. In 2026, it's going to be January 2nd and 3rd in Boca Raton. You can go to internationalmasterminders.com to register to be part of this. But this is something that you've got to really commit to doing, because this is about planning for your life. This is about putting the same kind of effort into building your life that you put into building someone else's business. So I would encourage everyone to check out the annual meeting. Dr. Peter?
Yeah, this is such a great show, Karla. Thank you so much. Let's dive on in, get ready to land this plane. We're getting ready to be near the top of the hour. I'm excited because as we reflect on the show now, and even those gems, Karla, that you dropped on us a little bit, that now hopefully we know the difference between generalized and specialized knowledge, but then we also kind of can take a moment to reflect on our careers, our businesses, and ask ourselves, what comfort zone do we need to step out of? Who do we need to surround ourselves with? What do we need to do as we move forward in order to sharpen our skill set in this rapidly evolving environment that we live in? Galen, I'm going to start out by saying, I thought this was a phenomenal conversation, not only for myself, continue to sharpen my own skill set, but also for our kids as they continue to increase in this workspace and increase in this corporate environment and do better and do more. They can't rest on that degree that they may have gotten 5, 10, 15 years ago. What are they doing now to keep their skill set sharp? What are their specialized knowledge that they're leaning into in order to keep up with the rapidly evolving times around us? So I'm hoping that someone also gleaned a little bit of that and is able to share that with a friend, a family member, a colleague for that matter, as they continue to move forward. Hey folks, my name is Dr. Peter A. James. I am the high performance coach helping you to shift your mindset. I'm hoping that you are able to even shift your mindset as a result of today's conversation. And if you're not, please check me out at shiftyourmindset.com. I would love to have a conversation with you around your future, around your now, but even around what you need to do differently in order to master and drive your own car as you continue to move forward. Galen, what were some of the gems that you were able to glean from our conversation with Karla today?
I'll tell you, I just really love the reinforcement that it's not either or. It's not either get the certification and education or uh, apply it. It's both and. It's get the certification, get the education, and go apply it, and let the application tell you when you need to go get more education. And I just love that focus. It reminds me of, one of my favorite jazz musicians, Miles Davis, once said, in order to become a great jazz musician, you got to learn everything you can and then forget everything that you've learned and just show up and play. So a lot of times people want to play before they've learned, or they want to just spend all the time in the lab learning. But you got to do both. You got to do both. So that's one of the reinforcements that I got from today's conversation. You can find me all over LinkedIn, Instagram, all over social media. But the easiest, the best, the most profitable way to find me is to go to my podcast, Whiskey, Jazz, and Leadership. We talk to leaders all over the world about the whiskeys they drink, the jazz music they listen to, and what it really takes for to be an effective leader. Double dog dare you to try us at least once. Guarantee you that you will learn something that will help you get to the next level of your existence. Great conversation. Glad we were able to have you back, Karla.
I am so glad to be here. It's great to just be connected with my tribe, so to speak. I'm here every Saturday learning from both of you. So just thank you for your warm welcome and the questions.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about how we can get a hold of you. How can people get a hold of you?
So I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, Karla Hill, but also my website is GPS Career and Business Strategies. I'm your GPS for that career, for that navigation, taking you to your next steps, just in terms of growth, purpose, and strategy, because it is a lot out there, right? Like I said, 33,000 different occupations. Everyone has gifts and talents. It's how do you organize that to get to that next step? So that's what I do, and it's just my pleasure to be here. And a quick way, Karla Hill, Karla Hill.com. Also have that website. And you
Fantastic.
can reach, I'll give my number to 215-802-0050. 215-802-0050. Feel free to call me, text me. Here to help. Thank you.
Good stuff. Good stuff there, Galen. And thank you so much there, Karla, for being with us today. Hey folks, every Saturday morning we dive on into Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. We dive on in and really reflect on each of these principles, each of these chapters, in order to ask yourself how you can apply it better to your life. Many people who listen in have never read the book from cover to cover or even dissected it. I'm hoping that by being here, you can hear a great guest such as Karla and how she's been able to apply it, but also hear a little bit about her expertise and how you may be able to glean that for yourself, for your friend, for your family member, for your colleague as you continue to move forward. Karla, thank you so much for being a phenomenal guest and also a phenomenal member of our tribe. And hey, folks, we look forward to seeing you again next week, same time, same channel. In the meantime, please continue to think and grow rich. Take care.